What we're looking at here is a Sumerian tablet that actually shows the Tree of Life, flanked by divine beings. You can see here the Anunnaki on each side.
For thousands of years, the ancient Sumerians left behind mysterious tablets filled with stories, symbols, and warnings that continue to puzzle historians today. But what if those writings pointed to events unfolding in 2026? Coincidence or something more? Join us in this video as we explore 12 fascinating predictions that many claims are now coming true. Examine the evidence behind each one and separate historical facts from modern interpretations. By the end, you can decide for yourself what these ancient messages really mean. Number 12. The twin lights that shouldn't be there. The first omen says, "In the lights of the heavens are seen as twins, and the lesser does not belong." At first, it sounds like a strange riddle, but when experts compared different copies of the text, they found the same line repeated 3 separate times. That made many people wonder if the message was meant to stand out. The ancient Sumerians carefully watched the night sky. They had a special name for unusual objects that appeared among the stars, Mul-Idim, meaning the foreign star. They clearly separated these from the stars and the 5 planets they already knew and tracked. If something unexpected appeared, it was treated as different. It was foreign. This idea also appears in the Mul-Arpin, the famous Mesopotamian collection of star records. Unusual lights in the sky were listed separately, with instructions that they should be reported to the king immediately and watched until they disappeared. That shows these sightings were taken seriously, not ignored. Today, astronomers know that Earth sometimes captures small, natural objects for a short time. On average, about 3 of these temporary visitors are nearby at any moment. 2 recent examples, 2024 PT5 and 2025 PN7, made headlines as Earth's mini-moons. The first was briefly captured by Earth's gravity between September and November 2024. The second, discovered by the Pan-STARRS survey in August 2025, is expected to remain a near-Earth companion for decades. These objects are not true moons. They are wandering asteroids that arrive from elsewhere before eventually leaving again. The Sumerians could not calculate their paths, but they may have noticed something unusual in the sky and carefully recorded exactly what they saw. But the sky wasn't the only warning they recorded, was it? Let's find out. Number 11. When the rivers no longer reach the sea. The second omen says, "The 2 waters do not reach the salt." The 2 waters are the Tigris and Euphrates, the rivers that gave life to ancient Sumer. The salt refers to the Persian Gulf, where both rivers have long emptied. In 2023, Iraq's Ministry of Water Resources reported the lowest combined river flow since modern measurements began in 1933. By 2025, the levels had fallen even further. Parts of the lower Euphrates dried up above the Hama marshes, leaving sections of the river unable to reach the Gulf at all. What happened when the warnings reached the fields and harvests next? Keep watching to find out. Number 10. When there is food, but people still go hungry. The third omen says, "The grain of the year is heavy, and the people do not eat." At first, the message sounds impossible. If the grain is heavy, it means the harvest is strong, and there should be plenty of food. But in ancient omen texts, the warning was not always about the amount of grain. It was about whether ordinary people could actually afford it. The meaning changes from a farming problem to an economic one. The crops exist, but the people still struggle because the price is beyond their reach. This interpretation has drawn comparisons to recent global food challenges. In 2025, food markets continued to face pressure, with cereal prices remaining high compared with historical averages, even while global wheat production reached record levels. The contradiction is what makes the omen so interesting. A world can have full fields and still have empty tables. The Sumerian scribes were not only watching nature, they were watching how resources moved through society and how ordinary people were affected. Their warning was not simply about a failed harvest, it was about a breakdown between abundance and access, a situation where food exists, but many people cannot afford to eat it. But the next warning wasn't on Earth, so where was it? Stay tuned to find out. Number 9. Cold fire across the northern sky. The fourth omen says, "The sky speaks in cold fire above the lands of the north." In Sumerian writings, cold fire was a poetic way of describing glowing lights in the sky, what we now call the northern lights, or auroras. The omen says these lights would appear above the lands of the north. On Sumerian maps, that meant any region above what is now modern-day Aleppo, around 36 degrees north. The detail is striking because it suggests the lights would spread much farther south than people normally expected. In other words, the sky would glow over places where auroras were rarely seen. That is exactly what happened in May 2024, when the strongest solar storm in 2 decades sent brilliant auroras far beyond their usual range. The glowing skies were seen as far south as Mexico, Spain, and India, surprising millions. Similar displays continued during the solar storms of 2025. Scientists say the sun's current activity, known as Solar Cycle 25, reached its peak in October 2024. According to NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center, this unusually active cycle is expected to remain intense through 2026. Since records began in 1755, this cycle has proven stronger than many expected. Yet the ancient scribes were only getting started. Then the warning shifted from the skies to humanity itself. Keep watching to find out more. Number 8. The sickness that walks unseen. The fifth omen says, "The sickness walks slowly, and the cities do not see it before it has entered." Early translators believed this described a disease that spreads quietly, building over time before people realize it is there. Today, disease experts use a similar idea. They call it a slow burn outbreak, one that grows gradually, causes few early deaths, but spreads widely before it is fully detected. Some people have compared this description to the H5N1 bird flu developments seen during 2025, when the virus appeared in mammal populations across 4 continents. The World Health Organization's risk reports warned that the situation required close monitoring as the virus continued to evolve. The wording of the omen is also unusual. It speaks of a sickness that walks. In Mesopotamian medical texts, walking was not just another word for spreading. It often described illness moving from one kind of animal to another, especially between livestock and humans. That makes the phrase far more specific than it first appears. Whether this connection is coincidence or something more, the careful wording keeps drawing attention. The fascination is not simply the prophecy itself. It is the detailed record-keeping of the ancient scribes who carefully documented patterns they believed mattered. What exactly came next? Stay tuned to find out. Number 7. When one throne has 2 voices. The sixth omen says, "In the 7th month, the name of the king is twice spoken, and the land does not know which is true." Royal omens like this were common in Sumerian collections. The phrase "twice spoken" was often linked to disputed transfers of power, contested leadership, or rival claims to the same position. Before 2024, many historical events could have matched that description. But during 2024 and 2025, 2 of the world's 3 largest economies experienced highly contested leadership transitions within a single budget year. To an ancient scribe, "the land does not know which is true" would have described exactly that kind of uncertainty. Then the ground itself began sending an even greater warning. Number 6. When the sea changes the shore. The 7th omen says, "The earth moves beneath the waters, and the shores are not where they were." The Sumerians were familiar with earthquakes on land, but the phrase "beneath the waters" appears only 6 times across the surviving tablets. It points to earthquakes under the sea, the kind that can reshape coastlines and trigger what the texts describe as rising waters. Between 2023 and 2025, the average number of undersea earthquakes measuring magnitude 7.0 or higher reached one of the highest levels recorded in modern times. In 2024, Japan's Noto Peninsula earthquake permanently lifted parts of the coastline by as much as 4 meters, leaving sections of land forever changed. Then came the 2025 Kamchatka earthquake, a massive magnitude 8.8 event. It sent tsunami waves across the Pacific and measurably altered parts of the sea floor. The coastline itself was changed by the force beneath the ocean. The final line, "The shores are not where they were," is not just poetic language. In 2 earlier uses of the phrase "beneath the waters," the nearby tablets connect it with what the scribes called the unbinding of the coast. Even the structure of the wording closely matches those older records. But nature wasn't finished sending its warnings, was it? Keep watching to find out more. Number 5. When the trade roads went silent. The 8th omen says, "The road of the traders is closed, and the goods do not move." For ancient Mesopotamia, trade depended on 2 major systems: long caravan routes across land and shipping lanes through the Persian Gulf. The wording of the omen is specific. The road is not destroyed. The goods still exist. They simply stop moving. That description has drawn comparisons to events in recent years. In 2024, container traffic through the Red Sea dropped sharply as security threats forced many ships to avoid the route. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow passage between Yemen and Djibouti, became heavily restricted for international shipping. The original Sumerian word used for road was kaskal, the same term found in trade records describing routes that connected Sumer with distant regions like the Indus Valley thousands of years ago. Ancient records from the reign of Shulgi, around 2050 BCE, mention 2 major trade networks: the sea route through the Red Sea region and the overland path through areas that are now Iran and Afghanistan. In recent years, both routes have faced major disruptions. But the next detail reveals why this omen continues to attract attention. The next warning wasn't about trade, right? So what was it about? Stay tuned to find out. Number 4. When the wise are no longer heard. The 9th omen says, "The wise are made small, and their words are not believed." In its original context, this referred to the decline of scribes and experts during periods of political uncertainty. The phrase "made small" is important. It does not mean they were assassinated, removed, or completely silenced. It means their influence was reduced while they continued to speak. Some have compared this idea to modern concerns about declining trust in experts. The Edelman Trust Barometer reported that public confidence in institutions, including scientific organizations, reached historic lows in recent years and remained under pressure through 2025. The experts still share information, but many people question or dismiss their words. The Sumerians believed they had seen this pattern before. A similar phrase appears in the Omen collections connected with the final years of Ebi-Sin, the last ruler of the 3rd dynasty of Ur. During that period, the influence of the scribal class weakened as the kingdom moved toward collapse around 2004 ACE. To the ancient writers, the pattern was a warning sign. When knowledge loses authority, major changes often follow. They believed the signs appeared long before the final transfer of power arrived. Then came a warning that feels even stranger today. Keep watching to find out what it was. Number 3. The voice that was not human. The 10th omen says, "A voice that is not human is heard in every house, and the people listen to it." The original Sumerian wording uses the term ka, meaning mouth, combined with nulu, meaning not of a person. This unusual phrase appears only twice in the entire collection, making it stand out among the other warnings. The ancient scribes may have been describing a voice that came from something other than a living person. The safest interpretation is that it referred to messages from rulers, religious figures, or official announcements carried into homes. But the wording creates a very different image to modern readers. Today, billions of people interact with artificial voices every day. By 2025, AI-powered voice systems had become a common feature in homes, phones, and personal devices. Major technology platforms increasingly use synthetic voices as a primary way for people to communicate with machines. The phrase, "in every house," feels especially striking because these voices are no longer limited to laboratories or experts. They are now part of everyday life. The Sumerian scribes could not have imagined modern technology, but their description of a voice without a human speaker has caused many to look at this ancient omen in a new way. And then another interpretation appeared, but the strangest warning was still waiting ahead. Let's find out what it was. Number 2, the Watchers and the lights without fire. The 11th omen says, "The Watchers are seen again, and the lights they carry are not of fire." In Sumerian tradition, the Apkallu, or Watchers, were mysterious figures believed to have guided humanity by bringing knowledge and wisdom from the gods. In the Bit Messe pre-ritual texts, they are described as fish-cloaked beings who appeared at the beginning of civilization and were believed to return at certain times. A later Akkadian text, the Era Epic, preserves older traditions and names 7 Apkallu figures. It also contains references to their return before a major turning point, often described as the time when the old order changes. The wording about their lights is what makes this omen unusual. The text does not say they carry fire. In Sumerian thought, fire and light were not always the same thing. Fire was a human force, powerful but dangerous. Light without fire was often connected to the heavens, divine signs, and extraordinary beings. Modern readers have connected this phrase to reports of unexplained objects in the sky. In 2024 and 2025, the United States government's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office released reports documenting thousands of unidentified aerial phenomena cases. Some reports described movements that did not appear to match known aircraft. Whatever conclusions someone reaches about these sightings, the wording of the omen remains unusual. Lights that are seen, but not created by fire. Then, another discovery added even more mystery. Ancient writing expert Irving Finkel identified a matching seal pattern on a tablet in the British Museum collection, suggesting the 12 omens belonged to a larger closing section rather than separate predictions. The scribes may have intentionally grouped them together for a reason. And finally, the scribes revealed the warning that connected them all. Number 1, the seal that was broken. The 12th omen is the one the scribes placed at the end, and according to the records, it was written in a different ink. Listed as VAT 9447, front side, line 18, it reads, "The seal is broken, and that which was hidden returns to the light." The phrase, "the seal is broken," is believed to connect with the cycle the scribes were tracking. In their worldview, each turn of the seal represented the return of a rare combination of conditions involving the sky, the earth, and human affairs. They believed these patterns could repeat after long periods of time. According to their calculations, the previous major cycle occurred around the reign of Hammurabi, roughly 1780 BCE. Based on the same timeline, some interpretations place the next turning point around 2026. But the real mystery is what the texts actually meant. The Sumerians were not necessarily predicting a fixed future. They believed history moved through repeating patterns. Their omen records were attempts to recognize warning signs by comparing events across generations. The collection known as Enuma Anu Enlil combined observations of the heavens, weather changes, river conditions, harvest results, political events, and illnesses into one enormous system of tracking. Modern researchers might describe this as a form of pattern analysis using multiple variables. The scribes had no computers or modern science, but they spent centuries recording information and searching for connections. They were not simply trying to predict one event, They were watching for moments when many signs appeared together and believed that was when the world entered a new phase. But before understanding their warnings, we must first know who they were. Who were the Sumerians? The civilization that changed the world long before the rise of many famous empires. A civilization emerged in the fertile lands of southern Mesopotamia, in what is now southern Iraq. These were the Sumerians, a people who flourished between roughly 4000 and 1750 BCE. Sumer was not a single country like modern nations. Instead, it was a collection of powerful city-states, each ruled by its own king, with cities like Ur, Uruk, and Eridu becoming centers of power and culture. The ancient Sumerian king list tells a legendary story that kingship was a gift sent down from the gods, first arriving in the city of Eridu. This idea connected leadership, law, and civilization together, shaping how Sumerians viewed order in their world. Although the name Sumer came from their Akkadian neighbors, the Sumerians saw their homeland simply as the land, or the land of the black-headed people. Despite their ancient origins, their influence can still be felt today. They developed some of humanity's earliest cities, created one of the first writing systems, built schools, developed irrigation methods, and created complex governments. They also shaped the way humans measure time, dividing days into hours, minutes, and seconds using a system based on 60. From the first written stories to monumental architecture and early legal systems, the Sumerians created foundations that later civilizations built upon. For thousands of years, their achievements disappeared from memory until 19th century archaeological discoveries uncovered their forgotten world and revealed why they are often called the inventors of civilization. What are your thoughts about these warnings? Let us know in the comments section below. In the end, the Sumerian omens are not just about predicting the future. They are about how ancient people watched the world, searched for patterns, and recorded the changes they believed mattered. Whether these connections are coincidence or something more, one thing remains clear. Thousands of years later, their writings still make us question what we know about history, civilization, and what may come next. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more mysteries hidden inside the stories of our world.